Om Stapakaya Dharmasya Sarvadharmasvarupine Stapakaya Dharmasya Sarvadharmasvarupine Avadara Varisthaya Ramakrishna Math Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityor ma mritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let us offer our salutations to Sri Ramakrishna, the embodiment of all religions, the Supreme Incarnate, who came to establish universal religion. Let us offer our prayers to him to lead us from the unreal to the real, to lead us from the darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, to lead us from death to immortality. So we have been studying Karma Yoga since last 2 Sundays, in last 2 months. So this is the third serial, same topic I am continuing. How Karma Yoga leads one towards the realization of the truth. It all depends upon the attitude. If we don't have the correct attitude, then karma, instead of leading you towards the truth, may bind you. So, when the karma binds you, then it cannot be called Karma Yoga. When the karma leads you towards the realization of the truth, then it becomes Karma Yoga. So, what I want to stress importance is that our attitude should be very clear. If the attitude is spiritually oriented, then you are really great. Whatever action you do leads you towards the truth. So Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Niyatang kuru karma, tvam karma, yayohya karmanaha, sharira yatra pipatena prasiddhera karmanaha. Lord Krishna says very clearly what one should do. He says, do your bounden niyatam duty as a karma yogi. So if you consider the action as the duty, then if you act upon, it becomes yoga. So acting thus is better than inactivity. You cannot even live for a short while if you are completely and literally inactive. Here, niyata, that is a Sanskrit word, it means swabhava. Swabhava niyata or prakriti niyata, according to the innate nature and mental makeup. Whatever work you do in accordance with your nature and mental makeup is niyata karma. It doesn't mean the work that your father was doing, nor does it mean jati karma or jati dharma, actions pertaining to one's caste. As misinterpreted by some people, believing in such systems. If you interpret it so, suppose you are a Brahmin, you have to daily perform ahuti, homa, etc. Further, according to Smriti, one, especially a Brahmin, working for a foreigner, is considered outcast, having no scope for mukti. If you are going to take this interpretation, then you must observe the do's and don'ts of it strictly and literally, and not simply when it suits you to do so. We have no need for such dharma. In spite of whatever work we are engaged in, if we know that Vedanta is what Vedanta is and regulate ourselves Vedantically, we can do away all with our do's and don'ts. The do's and don'ts are only for those people who are unable to regulate themselves in their worldly conduct by excelling in ethics and purity. Now Krishna says again in the Gita, Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tva sarvapapebhyo mokshishyami masujaha. So you don't have to worrying about dharma. You don't have to confuse about it. Relinquish all dharmas, do's and don'ts, and take refuge in me, the infinite self, seated within you as your own soul. So do the work in which you are engaged as best as possible, with a spirit of detachment to the result. Do not complain about your circumstances and surroundings. They have been ordered by your past karmas. Instead of complaining, change your attitude towards that very work you find mental pain in doing. Till today you were thinking, I am working in this office because I have no other goal. I need money. I receive a salary to support my family. But from now on, your attitude must be, in this infinite machine called the world, I am one cog. Somebody or other is going to benefit by my work, whether I work in this office or another. When I look at it from the infinite angle, it is all for the world. So let me do my work properly without attachment to the result. If you work so, with a clear and clean mind, without ragadvesh, understand that divine expression will be in your work. Lord Krishna says in another place, Yatah pravritti bhutanam yena sarvamidam tatam swakarmana tamabhyarcha siddhim vindati manavaha. The infinite power from which everything has emanated is within, without, is permeating and transcending everything. Man attains perfection by worshipping that power through doing his own duty as karma yoga. The capacity of the karmendriyas to work, the mind to feel, and the intellect to think are all expressions of that infinite power. Brahman, not only that, since the infinite power is everywhere, it is also in every one whom you come in contact with, in also the very process of doing your karma. So doing the work without raga dvesha, attachment to the fruit, is really sarvaswarupa puja, worship of the infinite. Sarveshwara puja. It is not only in the temple, Yajnashala, that you can do puja, but you can worship the infinite by your actions in the house, marketplace, or in the office, wherever you may be. Being about the inner change, bring about the inner change in whatever work you may be doing. The potential force of our past karmas brings about the circumstances in which we are placed in this life. Our very nature, Swabhava, is regulated and controlled by the unspent force of our past actions. So, be in it and yet try to be out of it through Karma Yoga. So Arjuna, Lord Krishna says to him, your nature has been molded by your past karmas. You are a Kshatriya, that is belonging to the warrior race, out and out. So the action you are best fitted for is fighting for a righteous cause. It is your niyata karma, bounden duty. So do the very karma you are best fitted for as a karma yogi. Do not think that you can have jnana if you run away from action. Your swabhava, niyata karma, action according to one's nature is not only better than inaction, but it can also lead you to mukti, moksha, if done as karma yoga. You will have no sin coming from it. Yajñārthāt karmaṇonyatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sanga samachara. You will not be able to maintain your body, life even for a short time, if you are completely, literally inactive. Not physical activity alone, but any movement, chalana, is action. Thoughts being movements on the consciousness, even thinking is action. So strictly speaking, you should not even think. Real jnana is committing suicide of the mind. For once the mind, the flow of thoughts is annihilated, you are directly face to face with pure consciousness, Satchidananda. That means at the point of realization of the highest truth, you are going beyond the mind, you are transcending the mind. Manaso bhyudayo nasho mano nasho mahodaya mahodaya jnana mano nasham abhyeti manojnasya hi shankala. The very coming into existence of the mind is real destruction. For along with the mind, sukha and dukkha also come, and we are ever agitated and tossed about by our emotions and thoughts. The real glory is going beyond the mind. The chain that binds us is ajnana, ignorance. The links of this chain can be broken through samabhava and karma yoga. The mind will then be less agitated. Such a mind alone can meditate and attain mukti. So Arjuna, instead of committing suicide of the body by complete inactivity, use the body as an instrument for evolution. With body alone can you do your dharma, karma yoga, and through this alone can you attain moksha. Tasmad asaktaha saratam karyam karma samachara asakto khyasran karma paramapnoti purushaha. Arjun, do your duty that you might even otherwise have performed. You did not invite the fight, it was forced upon you. Your duty as a Kshatriya is to protect dharma and destroy adharma from whatever source it emanates. Here, the source of adharma is your own cousin and his brothers, and in fighting against them, you will have to kill someone of your near and dear ones. But you should not try to avoid it because it is distasteful. You should not leave the present sphere of activity because it is an unpleasant one and seems to be full of defects. Remaining in it, simply change the color of your actions by changing your attitude towards them. Whatever actions come your way, whatever duties you have to perform, do them to the best of your ability, without attachment, either to the result of the action or to your body, mind and ego. Any individual who can thus perform his actions without attachment Shakti can definitely reach the Supreme. Tasmad sadaktaha satang karya karma samachara. Whenever you have any doubt, this is the mantra for you. Have samabhava. Go beyond sukha and dukkha. Rid yourself of raga, dvesh, attachments and selfishness. Do the work before you the best way you can and be detached from the result. Be honest in all your dealings. Do not be afraid of anyone. Even if it costs you your own job, do not resort to falsehood. Even supposing that by being honest you lose your job, be absolutely certain that a better job is waiting, extending its hands to you. Lord Krishna himself observes and tells, Partha naiveha namutra vinashastasya vidyate nahi kalyanakrit kaschid durgadintada gacchati. A man who goes through the right and noble path will never come to any difficulty, nor has he any peril here in this world or hereafter. So my real bhakta will never perish. A man truly devoted to me, the infinite self, will never perish. Moreover, he will become a noble soul immediately and attain the permanent peace at once. Whenever you have any doubt, you need not go running here and there asking for other people's advice. Just keep quiet. Your heart will advise you. What it says may not seem to you the correct thing at the moment, but act upon it. Subsequent events will justify your action. Noble and meritorious people, when they have any doubts about anything, do not consult books or other people. They consult their own within. Whatever indication comes from their own inner being will be the right answer and remedy. This is how great people like Kalidas are taught. This is how each and every Sanatana Dharmi should act upon. Thus, when Krishna pointed out the path of Karma Yoga, Arjuna wants us to ask him whether anyone in the world has actually attained mukti without relinquishing activity by doing Karma Yoga. Krishna senses this question in the mind of Arjuna and answers, Karmanaiva hi samsiddhim astita janakadeyaha lokasangramevapi sampashyam kartumarrasi. Arjuna, King Janak and others like him, who had much heavier responsibilities than you, are having attained mukti without relinquishing activity. Doing their duties as karma yogis, they attain the Supreme. Even if you look from the point of view of loka sangraha, you should keep on acting in the world as a karma yogi. Loka sangraha is not something that is the sole concern of politicians and the government. Each and everyone can do his bit. If you are a perfect karma yogi, equipoised in samabhav, you become a symbol, example to others to emulate. That way, you can spread goodness around you. If you can win over one soul and turn him to the path of mukti, then you are doing the greatest loka sangraha. When you start on this path, relatives and friends may criticize you, they may ridicule you, and they may try to pull you back to the old level. Everyone around you may try to make you the old fool again. But be firm. Once they realize that you are really sincere and serious, they will slowly start imitating you. Gradually they will also evolve. This is the greatest good you can do to the world. Lord Krishna tells Arjuna, even supposing you have no desire to do karma and have nothing to gain by engaging in action, if you consider the welfare of the masses, you must go on acting in the world. Yadyadācharati shreshtastattadeveto janaha sayat pramanam kurute lokastadanu vartate. What a man of greatness and nobility does, the lesser men will also do. They imitate him. They will take him to be an example for them to emulate. When a man has come into prominence and is respected and adored by the people, the masses will not care to analyze and inquire into his actions to see whether he has acted rightly or wrongly. They will blindly imitate him. Arjun, you are a prince, noted for your chivalry, courage and skill in archery. People look up to you as an example to be followed. If you run away now, what will the people think? They will not understand your change of heart, but mistaking it to be cowardice, will themselves be demoralized and will run away from the battlefield. Will that be Lokasangraha, good of the world? You are so placed that whatever you set up as the standard will be followed by the people. It's your duty now to set up the right example. Fight on as a karma yogi with samabhava and detachment. Teach them karma yoga theoretically and practically by your actions. This advice Lord Krishna applies not only to Arjun but to teach and every one of us. Each of us is looked up to by something, by someone or other. If you are a father or mother, the children look up to you. If you are a master, the servant looks up to you. You have a duty not only to yourself but to those around you also. You must act in the world in such a way that you set an example for those around you to follow. You can see how people set either good or bad examples by a number of incidents in your daily life. If the officer in charge of a department comes to the office at 11 a.m. every day, you can be sure that the staff gets there not a minute earlier than 10:55. If the officer leaves at 3 p.m., the office is empty at 3:05. If the head of the family spends his time playing cards, is it any wonder that the children excel at cards and gambling rather than in their studies? Every father and mother want their children to study well and become excellent in every field. But how many of them realize that they themselves are to blame if the children do not turn out well? When the mother spends all her time in idle gossip, neglecting even her household duties, when the father wastes his time playing cards, gambling, and in such other activities, and when both of them dislike intensely being bothered by the children, how can the children learn good habits? How can they expect the children to be studious when the parents have poor reading habits? The mother confining her reading to some cheap magazines and the father to his daily newspaper. Is it not the responsibility of every father and mother to set good examples to their children by their very behavior? Be ethically perfect. Cultivate good habits. Utilize your spare time in reading good books on Vedanta and religion. Spend some time each day and teaching your children the fundamentals of our Sanatana Dharma and telling Puranic stories to illustrate your point. Let your way of life be a lesson to the children on Vedanta. If you do that, you will be radiating Ananda and joy around you, and the children will start imbibing your good qualities. You will then see that not only do your children become very good, but your own spiritual development will be very rapid. The same applies in a wider sense to the national and political fields. We take the example of Mahatma Gandhiji, who lived for truth and non-violence. He could lift up a whole nation from lethargy and disunity and cut asunder its bondage of ignominious slavery. Could he have done that if he had not lived what he preached? His very life was a dedication to the cause, and people were not slow to follow him with enthusiasm. If there are a dozen such great people in a country, that country will be a veritable paradise, for the people cannot but admire and follow their examples. Abhito Brahma Nirvanam Vartate Viditatmanam. Their perfection and jnana will be overflowing around them. There is none in the world who does not want to improve. Goodness is as contagious as badness. Thus, Whether you are a politician holding sway over the whole nation, or just an ordinary citizen with only your children looking up to you, whether you are the mightiest or the humblest, you still can do the greatest good to the world by being a true karma yogi. Without trying to be a leader of the people, you will by your very nature draw people to you. By leading such a pure life of karma yoga, you will not only be progressing rapidly towards mukti, but unconsciously you will lead others on to the same path. Lord Krishna then cites his own example to illustrate this point. Name parthasti kartavyam tishu lokeshu kinchana nanavaptam avaptavyam vatta evacha karmani. Lord Krishna tells Arjun, take my own example. I have not an iota of duty to be performed, nor is there anything unattained that should be attained by me. Yet I engage myself in action. I have the supreme bliss emanating from my inner personality. I have completely left off the notion that I am the body, mind and intellect, and I am seated firmly on the Sakshi. I have no kartavya, duty to be performed, but duty will arise only if I look at the world with a sense of duality. Seated in the great glory of Chidananda, I am perfectly contented. The sense of duty comes only when you have something to attain from the world through which you hope to derive some joy. I am beyond any duty because I am Satchidananda Swarupa myself. I have nothing to gain at all by engaging in action. Still I am doing work, because if I do not engage in action and just keep quiet, others around me who look up to me as their leader will also imitate me and keep quiet. They will not understand my inner attitude of perfect contentment, but see only my inactivity and think that laziness is a virtue. They will blindly imitate me and cease to work. So I am working just for the sake of those who look up to me for direction and guidance. By acting as a karma yogi, I am setting an example to them, following which they will progress towards mukti. Since you are also a man of importance, held in great esteem by the people, you should also show them the correct way of life by being a karma yogi yourself. These words show how Sri Krishna wanted the people to follow his advice and act as karma yogis in the world. In philosophy, the first and foremost thing as well as the last thing to be learnt is the same, namely Trikdrashya Viveka, that is the real personality, the real perceiver in us. We think it is our body, mind and intellect and the ego put together that is our real personality. But behind the mind, body, intellect and ego, there is something else which is non-changing, non-moving. The moment we know that that is our real personality, that all other things of the world are subject to change and destruction, we have to leave the realm of body, mind and intellect and go to the witness, the perceiver within. The difficulty in this world is that people do not have Drishya Viveka, that is, knowledge as to what is the perceiver and what is the perceived. Although the mind and the body function, behind these, the body and body, there is something that supplies the power to them, and that is the real perceiver. When anything happens to our body or mind, we think we are suffering. The idea, I am sick, I am blind, I am hurt, I am unhappy, etc. They are all born out of our identification with the body and mind. When your body is sick, make an inquiry as to who is sick. Am I sick? No. The body is sick. Am I the body? No. I am not the body. The body is mine. I am that which is the life behind the body, the possessor of the body, the drik or perceiver within the body. Thus we have to trace it within ourselves. All karmas, actions we do are performed with the understanding that I am the body, I am the mind, and I am the intellect. As long as this bodha remains, human beings are not going to come to a state where they can put a stop to these karmas and attain mukti. When these three equipments are themselves subject to change, and when all the things they come in contact with also are subject to change, how can we have peace that is non-changing if we identify ourselves with these equipments? Shankaracharya refers to this constantly recurring misunderstanding of mankind in a very opening statement of his Brahma Sutra Bhashya. There he says, Yushmat asmat pratyaya gocharayoho vishya vishayinoho tamah prakashavat viruddha svabhavayoho itaretara bhavanupapattau siddhayam tad dharmanam api sutaram itaretara bhavanupapatti. What is the real I in you and what is objective to you? You think the world is objective and the subjective I is your body and mind. But the body, mind and intellect are as objective to you, the real I, the real personality in you, as the world outside. Locate that personality and know it. When you know it, that being non-changing and permanent, you will remain there unaffected by the sukhas and dukkhas that the world may offer you. Without knowing this, we think we are the body, mind, etc. When the very thing which is having sukha or dukkha, that is the body and mind, are subject to change and are perishable, how can we have non-changing ananda? Krishna deals with this ignorance in man in the latter part of the 3rd chapter in the Gita. He says, Prakatehe kriyamanani gunaihi karmani sarvashaha ahankar vimudhatma kartahamiti manyate. The real I, Sakshi, is the inner personality. It can never associate itself with the body, mind and intellect. But man in his ignorance has a feeling as though it is associating with them, that is body, mind and intellect, and so works in the world with this basic misunderstanding. All people in the world act because in their body, mind and intellect there are 3 gunas operating, sattva, rajas and tamas. These gunas do not and cannot operate in the Sakshi, the perceiver, the soul within, which is pure consciousness, unpolluted, untouched, untainted. The effect of the 3 gunas in the body, mind and intellect takes the form of terrible attachment. Attachment to worldly things, including the body, mind and intellect. Whenever you have success or failure in your worldly dealing, you will be affected by joy and sorrow. You will be tossed about by success and failure, and the world will play with your emotions as a monkey keeper plays with his monkey. As long as these 3 gunas remain in us, we will remain thus and suffer. Even Sattva guna binds us. The difference in the 3 gunas is their attachment to different things. A tamasic man is attached excessively to his body. He lives only to satisfy his bodily passions and desires. He is caught up in sleep, sloth and laziness. A rajasic man is attached to his body and mind and is always engaged in feverish activity because he thinks by these activities he can gain worldly benefits and derive joy from them. Thus he is tied down by his activities. A sattvic man is attached to his intellect more than to his body or mind. He is caught up by his attachment to his intellectual accomplishments. But attachment is attachment. He derives joy from reading books on philosophy and the higher sciences of the life and analyzing about them. The sattvic man is as much bound as a rajasic or tamasic man. He must transcend even the sattva guna if he aims at mukti. That's why the Vedanta says, read me, understand me, and then go beyond scholarship. Actualize by practicing sadhana what you have studied. Not much of intellectual eminence is required for attaining moksha. Just the knowledge that there is a non-decaying, undying principle in us which is not affected by sukha or dukkha and which is of the nature of pure consciousness, pure bliss, is enough for many people of ordinary intellect to turn inwards and realize the soul. You may have studied all the shastras and scriptures, still you will be as much disgruntled and discontented as any other man of the world who has not even heard of the shastras, if you remain in theory itself without practicing it. Thus, operated by these gunas, a man identifies himself with body, mind and intellect. This ajnana or avidya, which makes him think that his real personality, the real I, is associating itself with his body, mind and intellect, keeps him bound in samsara sagara. This ajnana, ignorance, creates in him the egoistic ahankar. I am the doer, I am the enjoyer. He takes pride that I did this and I did that. This is mine and that is mine. Thus constantly harping on what all he has done and what all he possesses. He meets his end, namely death. Lord Krishna says, Tattva vittu mahabaho gunakarma vibhagayoho guna guneshu vartanta iti matva nasajjate. A tattvavita, tattvajnani, is one who knows that the non-changing principle underlying the changing phenomena of the external world and the principle underlying the changing phenomena of his body, mind and intellect are one and the same. A tattvajnani, having come to know that there is such a non-changing principle in himself, must leave the ever-changing realms of body, mind and intellect and remain aloof in the inner personality. He knows that the gunas operate in the body, mind, intellect realm and that is beyond them, that they do not affect his real personality in the least. Having this detached attitude, he is not bound by the actions of his body, mind and intellect. He, in the course of his dealings in the world, may have to display all sorts of emotions and reactions. He may even have to fight with people. But in all this, though he puts on a mask of anger, inwardly he is serene. Even when he is acting, he stands apart and looks at his own actions as ordinary people look at others' actions. It is possible for you to develop this attitude and frame the mind. In Karma Yoga, you cultivate samabhava and do not let the world react on you. But when you develop sakshi bhava, there is no question of the world reacting on you at all, because you are entirely away from the realm of the body, mind and intellect, where the world can react. You are just observing, not taking part in the worldly dealings of the body, mind and intellect. What happens if you are not able to keep yourself apart? Lord Krishna tells in the Gita, Prakrate guna sammudaha sajjante guna karmasu tana Krishna vido mandan Krishna vinna vichalayet. People who are not able to dissociate their true personalities from the body, mind and intellect realm and to stand apart and witness their own actions, become attached to their actions which are actually they are born out of their gunas. Thus they get caught up by sukha and dukkha resulting from the success or failure of their actions. Krishnavid is one who knows all the secrets concerning the perceiver and the perceived, Drik and Drishya, who knows that his body, mind and intellect are as objective to him as the world. The Krishnavid, knowing this and acting like a true karma yogi, should not upset or unsettle the others who are foolish and do not possess the true knowledge. In an earlier stanza, Lord Krishna has said, a man of the true wisdom must teach others the same method by which he himself evolved. He must teach others You will suffer if you are not able to view the world and your body, mind, intellect objectively. If you are not able to stand apart as an affected perceiver, if you are not able to stand apart as an unaffected perceiver, when you are troubled, don't say that the world is bad, your wife is bad, your circumstances are hopeless, etc. And try to run away from the present set of circumstances to another. Whether you are here or elsewhere, you are going to remain in the world only, and it will react on you. The world is not bad. It's only your misconceived association with the world that is really bad. Dissociate yourself from the world and your own body, mind, and intellect. Thus a Krishnavid, that means one who, knowing all about true life, does not run away from the physical world, but runs away from the body, mind, and intellect realm, and stands as a witness to the emanations, actions that take place from the body, mind, and intellect. Those who do not know that the gunas act in the body, mind, and intellect, and that the body, mind, and intellect are mere puppets in the hands of the gunas, associate themselves with the gunas and the actions emanating from them. They are by themselves neither intelligent nor mature enough to learn a lesson from the world. Unless someone shows them the way to ascend above their own body, mind, and intellect realm, they cannot evolve. Yama says to Nachiketa in the Kathopanishad, Ananya prokte gatiratra nasti. Unless a man who knows Vedanta intellectually and by actual realization comes and explains it to the people of inferior intellect, they who are sunk in the worldly life will not understand it and evolve. They cannot know the truth by themselves. So a Krishna which should properly guide such ignorant people in the right path. He must not tell them, the world is bad, you are bad, you are governed by your prarabdha karma, it's a hopeless life, you can never be happy here, run away. You should not talk like this. But you must tell them, there is nothing wrong with yourself or with the world. The only ugliness lies in your excessive attachment to the world. Leave off that attachment and be a witness to everything in the outside world as well as to anything that emanates out of your body, mind, and intellect. Work as a karma yogi and cultivate samabhava. Thus you must show them the correct path. Lord Krishna says, Mai sarvani karmani sanyasya adhyatma chetasa nirashir nirmamo bhutva yuddhyasva vigadajvaraha. By your adhyatmic understanding, knowledge of the self with mind centered on the self, you do sannyas of all your karmas in me. That is referring to Lord Krishna. Your own self, renounce all your actions in me with your mind centered on the self and your buddhi reinforced by the correct knowledge of the self. The sannyasa as propounded by Sri Krishna here is karma palatyaga or sarva sankalpa sannyasa, renouncing the fruits of action and attachment to the fruits of action. Lord Krishna says in the later chapter, Yastu karma palatyagi satyagi te vidiyate. He alone is a tyagi, one who has renounced, who is able to dissociate himself from the effect of result of his actions. He should not depend on the result of his actions for getting sukha. Thus sannyasa and karma yoga are in essence the same. Both imply knowing Vedanta properly and with Vedantic vision, dissociating oneself completely from sukha and dukkha, arising out of the contact of our body, mind, and intellect with the world. Therefore, Sri Krishna says, renounce all your actions in me, the infinite self. Then how is one to act in the world? Nirashi nirmamo bhutva yuddhyasva vigadajvaraha. Lord Krishna says, be a nirashi. That means without a desire. Asha or desire will lead to regret and sorrow sooner or later. Do not think you can have permanent sukha from the world. Do not give away to desire and suffer the consequences. Be a nirashi without desire. Nirmamaha, without a sense of I and mine. Because in egotism we think this is mine, that is mine, I did this, I did that. When you identify yourself with the inner perceiver, You have no more the mama, my and mine attitude. Work thus without egotism, identifying yourself with your real personality, Yujyasva Vigata Jvaraha. Fight, carrying on your work in the world without jvara. Jvara is the fever we suffer from when we associate ourselves with the body, mind and intellect and think that joy can be had from the external world. In anything we do, we are anxious about the result, and this association of ourselves with the result is to be abandoned, or else the quality of work we do will suffer. With Vedantic knowledge, cure yourself of this fever and work on without being pulled down by it. Be upright mentally, morally and intellectually, and work on in the world as Lord Krishna has instructed. Nirashi dirmamo bhutva. The term Yudhyasva, fight, refers to the battle of life, or day-to-day fight in the world. Life in the world can never be perfect. It is a relative life in which you come in contact with so many things over which you have no control. How can you have peace if you depend on the world? Turn within and reach the source of all bliss. If the world reaches you to turn within and become an introvert, the world and the life would have served their purpose. For turning within yourself, it doesn't matter where you are. The house is as good as or even better than any other place in the world for you to practice Vedantic sadhana. Lord Krishna continues, Ye me matamidam nityam anutishtanti manavaha saddhavanto anusuyanto muchyante tepi karmabhihi. Those people who constantly practice this teaching of mine throughout their life, who understand this principle, live with this principle, and make every action of their pregnant with this principle, who approach this truth with reverence and faith, with the aim of evolving and attaining mukti, who do not cavil at it, but try to know it, understand it, and act upon it, attain mukti without leaving their work. Their actions are no bondage to them. Here, the word manava, people, is used very significantly. The Krishna doesn't use the word, he does not use the word denoting Brahmins, Kshatriyas, etc. Nor even does he say Hindus. This dharma given out by Sri Krishna is not for Brahmins alone, not for Kshatriyas, Vaishyas or Sudras alone, not even for Hindus alone, but it is a manava dharma, dharma for all human beings, whether he be a Hindu, a Buddhist, a Muslim, Christian, Zoroastrian or Jew, and even for those who do not belong to any religion. If you are a man or a woman, a human being, this is the system for you, irrespective of caste, color or creed. If you are not a Hindu, Vedanta does not ask you to change or leave your religion, because there is just one infinite principle. There cannot be two. Whatever name you give, it is the thing which is to be understood by you in order to evolve. Vedanta does not contradict or condemn any religion. It includes and embraces in its fold all religions. Lord Krishna says in the Gita, Ye tvedad abhyasuyanto nanutishtanti me matam sarvajnana vimudam tam vidyanashtana chetasaha. What about those who do not heed Krishna's advice? There are people who hear Vedanta but think that Vedanta is only to be read or heard but not to be practiced in everyday life. They show an interest in Vedanta but still cling to their old crooked selfish ways. Lord Krishna says such people who, in spite of Vedanta being presented to them and in spite of their having intelligence enough to understand it, refuse to know it and act upon it, are ajnanis, they are ignorant people. To know Vedanta, you do not need great intelligence. If you can discriminate between some dirty matter and food that are both kept in front of you and prefer to eat the food and throw away the dirty matter, then you have enough viveka intelligence to understand and practice Vedanta. In spite of knowing the richness of Vedanta, people who cavil at it find fault with it and try to hide behind lame excuses like everybody cannot act upon it, only 1 in a million can do it, Vedanta is only for reading and not for practicing, they are simply foolish. Those who do not try to know it, and even knowing it, do not act upon to this wonderful teaching, wonderful technique, are sarvajnani mudaha, fools in spite of all their knowledge. Vimuda means Vishesha Mudaha, means special, first-rate idiots. Such people, Lord Krishna says, are doomed forever. The more they go after the shadow, the more they are getting away from the original. They perish chasing the shadow. Lord Krishna says in the Gita, Sadushan cheshtate swasyaha prakrite jnanavanapi prakritim yanti bhutani nigraha kim karishyati. Jnanavan is a theoretical Vedantin who knows Vedanta but does not practice it. Lord Krishna says in the later chapter, Bahunam janmanamante jnanavan mam prapadyate vasudevas sarvamiti samahatma sujurlabha. After so many births, one becomes a Jnanavan, a theoretical Vedantin. After he practices it, he becomes a Jnani. Right now, if you know Vedanta and practice it, you can become a Jnani and attain mukti in this very birth. You need not wait for a few more births. So, a mere Jnanavan, though he knows Vedanta, is unable to transcend the three gunas, get rid of raga and dvesha and cultivate samabhava. He has no control over the senses. He is not able to leave the gunas and ascend above them. He acts under the dictates of these gunas. All living beings act according to their swabhava, prakriti, nature. Even a Jnanavan is no exception to this rule. He, not knowing this, associates himself with his actions born out of gunas. He feels angry with himself and curses himself when his senses pull him out and suppresses his impulses. The impulses will not die when suppressed, but will rise up with redoubled vigor sooner or later. What he should do is to dissociate himself from his gunas, view his own gunas expressing through his body, mind, intellect as a sakshi, and try to sublimate his impulses by dwelling more and more on his true nature, the pure consciousness. If he does not do this, what is the use of merely suppressing his senses? Even trying to forget some unpleasantness, tragedy or sorrow in life is escapism, suppression. You must outlive the unpleasantness so that even when you remember them, they do not affect you. Indriyasya indriyasyarthe ragadvesho vyavastitau tayo navasamagatse tausasya paripantinau. Lord Krishna says, know how to sublimate your impulses. Understand that raga and dvesha are two forces that are within us and not in the objects of the external world. What you should do is not to allow raga dvesh to act through the senses. So Jnanavan, the real hurdles are raga and dvesha. He should not come under their sway, but must go beyond them. They are the enemies he has to encounter on his Jnanamarga spiritual course. Many people really want to evolve, but the pull of the senses and passions is so much that they fall below the standard they have set for themselves. After giving away to the passions or emotions, they begin to regard their actions. They feel paschatapa, regret, on second thought or introspection. When you feel such a paschatapa, you can derive some benefit and learn a lesson from it. When that introspection comes, when you feel, oh God, why did I do that? I did a mistake. I ought not to have done it. You are actually having something like Sakshi Bhava because you are viewing your own actions as a witness. So, Lord Krishna very emphatically teaches that we should have Sakshi Bhava. Why we suffer? Because we attach ourselves to our sense organs and in turn we attach to the objects of the senses. So, it is the interaction of the senses with the sense organs and sensual objects. Identifying ourselves with these senses, we suffer. It's because of a false identification with the senses we really suffer in this world. The moment we try to dissociate ourselves from these senses, then we are reaching the abode of bliss. So in order to attain liberation, one has to use his intellect properly and dedicate all the actions as an offering to God and become more and more selfless. The actions by themselves do not lead a person to mukti, but a person should have right attitude. With what attitude he is rendering the actions, that determines the future course of action. So, in order to practice karma yoga, one has to clearly follow that one should not be propelled by attachment towards doing the things. Attachment is a negative force. It saps the energy of a person. By being non-attached, you can be very efficient worker. You can efficiently discharge your duties to the best of your capacity. Non-attachment is a spiritual force. Attachment leads to worldly involvement. Non-attachment leads to liberation. So, what Lord Krishna says here is, Karma Yoga must lead you to become more and more selfless. So when a person becomes selfless through actions, then that is called Karma Yoga. So one must use his intellect, senses in a way that they all lead him towards the goal, towards the realization of his inner nature, the true perceiver, the real I, who is beyond body, mind, intellect and senses. That is the real perceiver. When I arrive at that real perceiver, then I get immense peace and joy. So, the whole world is object. I am the perceiver. And this I is the true I, who resides in the heart of everyone. When I realize the truth, then that is the state when I get absolute freedom. That is, we are no more bound by bondage anymore. So one gets a perpetual joy when one gets into that highest realization of the truth. And one really wonders what a great joy it is to realize the highest absolute reality. So that's what we see when we study the life of Sri Ramakrishna and great saints and sages, how they are blissful and cheerful all the time, because they are totally disidentified with their external things. They are aware of their inner joy, and they have realized that inner peace and bliss, realizing their true self. So, when the ignorance is destroyed, then there is joy only pervading everywhere. So that is the way to mukti as taught by Lord Krishna in the Karma Yoga. Thank you very much. We have another program in our temple site. It is on November 20th, Saturday. There will be Gita chanting, Vedic chanting, deep talk and bhajans. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat. May the Lord protect us, may He nourish us, may our knowledge be fruitful and enlightened, may we not hate each other, Peace, peace, peace be unto all.